So in this segment, we're going to talk about a reading strategy. It's called chunking, or just chunk. So I'm going to read the example first. This is a math example where a child would have to do a multi-step problem. It reads, Sarah uses a rain gauge to measure rainfall for a science project. Now I read that probably slower than most kids would. They probably would read it like this. Sarah uses a rain gauge to measure rainfall for a science project. My suggestion would be to make it even slower, so in order to process the information and kind of really grab what's going on. So Sarah, that's like, I pause here, uses a rain gauge to measure rainfall for a science project. So I kind of broke it up into little segments, so now I know what's going on. And watch how I use the comma as a tool to help me pause so I can think while I'm reading. The first week, she measures 2¼ inches of rain. The second week, notice I'm pausing right here, she measured twice as much rain. And the third week, pause, she measured half as much rain as the first week. So you can see how I'm like doing short and long things here, lines, that kind of help me think about what's going on. I kind of have to pause. And I use the comma as a signal. Stop and think for a second. Pause. The author put that there for a reason. Period. Stop and think for a second. What's going on? Reflect. Again, another comma. Stop and think. Another comma. Stop and think. Process what's going on twice as much. And here's another comma. Stop and think. This is now the third week. She measured half as much rain as the first week. Stop and think. Now we get to the real big part about how much rainfall did Sarah measure for the entire month. So again, I do how much rainfall did Sarah measure for the entire month. So when I do that, you can see I have like a longer, that's 3 words grouped together. This is 2 words, 1, and then 4 words here. So I kind of chunk them together. You can see they're like little chunks, okay? And so that's an example of a strategy to help you think while you're reading. And that's what the most important thing is, to be able to think while you're reading. And sometimes rereading it back slower, 1 word, 2 words, 3, even 4 word chunks help us kind of digest the information so we can use it in a smart way. I hope that was helpful to you. So I took our information from week 1, which was the 2¼ inches of rain, week 2, which was 4½, and week 3, which was 1⅛, and I set it up vertically. And so the very first thing that I notice is that I have different denominators. I have fourths, I have halves, and I have eighths. Well, when you're adding fractions, your denominators must be the same. So what we do is we will recopy our whole numbers, and we need to think about taking our denominators 4, 2, and 8 and doing our least common multiples. And so we have 4, 8, 12. I'm going to stop there. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I'm going to stop there. For 8, we have 8, 16. Well, wait a second. We have a winner here. It's 8. So we're going to end up using eighths. So let's do that. So I'm going to make all of them into eighths. Well, how did I get from 4 to 8? I multiplied by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 to 8, I multiplied by 4. 2 times 4 was 8. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. 1 times 4 is 4. Eighths, we keep the same. Okay, so now we can add. So now we have 2 eighths, 4 eighths, and 1 eighth. 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 1 is 7. This is 7 eighths. 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Our final answer is 7 and 7 eighths as our answer. So how did we do this? Well, we had to figure out how much rain there was. We knew for the first week. We had to figure it out for the second week. And that's our hidden question. How much rain fell the second week? Hidden question, how much rain fell the third week? And then from that information, we figured out how much rain fell for the entire month. Now, it's a little tricky that they say month. However, they only gave us 3 weeks. So that's what they expected us to figure out, the 3 weeks, and only the 3 weeks. I hope this was helpful to you.